Hey Toy Family, welcome to the Marsham Toy Hour, where we discuss anything and everything designer toys. I'm Gary Ham.
I am Carlos East.
And I am Ryan Rutherford.
Welcome back, Ryan. You know, you and I were just talking this week. You might be becoming a bit more of a regular on the show, but in a slightly different capacity.
Yeah, I'm excited about this opportunity.
Suggested by Chris Ryanak, he thought it would be a good segment for us to do a few minutes each week talking about materials and process. And I thought, that's a great idea, and who better than you as the man for the task?
Yeah, no one. There's no one better.
Exactly.
And in the whole world.
So coming soon, Professor Rutherford will be doing a segment each week or whenever he gets the time where he'll be dropping some knowledge about process, materials, and just tips and tricks of the industry. I think it's going to be rad. And looking forward to it, Ryan.
Yeah, so if there's anything in particular anyone wants to know, call Gary. Let him know.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a voicemail number. What is the voicemail?
See, I got it memorized now. It's
888?
No. This is a Phoenix area code. 480-420-9823. And if you call that number, it goes right to an answering machine. You can leave a message there. If you don't want to be recorded, you can just shoot us an email at marshamtoyhour@gmail.com. And yeah, anything that you want to know, like Ryan to touch base on, any materials, any process you want to know about, shoot us an email and he'll cover that topic for you.
Nice.
Yes, I will.
And guys, we have a guest tonight.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've heard it was somebody cool.
Who is it? So I've been trying to get this guy. He was actually the very first person I reached out to when we started this podcast. And it took, 10 plus months to finally get him on, but we got him. Just to give you a little backstory, this week's guest played an important role in designer toy history and is considered by many to be one of the founding trailblazers of the designer toy scene in the States. He, along with his business partner, Gregory Blum, started a company called Strangeco that was a producer of many of the best toys in the game, as well as they helped distribute many popular brands for other companies.
Wow.
Let's welcome Jim Crawford to the show.
Hey, guys.
Welcome, Jim.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Jim.
Thanks for having me.
What's
Hello,
up?
everybody. Long time no see to all three of you.
It's been a while.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All that list of things that you told, it sounds like, he's one of the founding fathers of the scene that we work in.
I mean, as far as the U.S., as far as being in the States, he was a big promoter and bringing over what he was seeing over in Hong Kong vinyl toy scene, and he was one of the men that helped to bring it over here. And Jim, this is episode 46 of this podcast, and I can't tell you how many times Strangeco has been mentioned as one of the greatly missed companies. I mean, I know for myself, I can just look around this office and see countless numbers of toys that you produce from Friends With You. I got a bunch of Tokidoki Cactus Pups. I got some
Pete Fowler.
Not Pete Fowler, but a bunch of Nathan Giravicious toys.
They didn't do the big horse that Pete Fowler did, or it was just distributed by you guys?
Yeah, that was Playbeast, which was Pete's company back in the day. We distributed for Playbeast.
Oh, gotcha. I thought it was a collaboration. All right.
Yeah. I mean, no, we didn't do the production itself. We just represented them here along with a few other companies.
Yeah.
Nice.
And if I'm a founding father, I should really get a powdered wig, but that's not for this.
No, you got a full head of hair, I see, so you're good. You don't need to go wig out yet.
Yeah, I know. So far, so good. Now you just jinxed me, Gary.
Well, sorry about that.
Oh, man.
We're all going to lose our hair eventually.
Trust me, he's the one that makes fun of my bald hair. So
yeah, Carlos knows a little something about losing occasional follicle or two.
Occasional 100 of them.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So, Jim, we mentioned how many toys you guys help produce, and even though Strangeco no longer exists today, how does it feel knowing that you help promote this toy industry to where it is today, and the toys you help produce still play a large role in the hearts and collections of many toy collectors today? How does that feel?
Well, yeah, I mean, it feels good. I'm thank you for the introduction, by the way. It's very, you're making me blush bright red over here. I'm really, I feel like it's nice that what we have produced is kind of out there and people either are seeking it out, or if they have it, that they feel, a particular connection to, something that we produced somewhere along the lines, and that, I don't really spend that much time looking on eBay or anything like that. But when the times that I have, I don't really see a whole lot of Strangeco stuff up there, and which means that people are hanging on to it, or they that they have some kind of desire to keep it, and that it's not hopefully sitting in some landfill somewhere, that people are really enjoying the products. So
I haven't seen too many at the Goodwill by my house, so I think you're good. Everyone seems to want to hold on to those toys.
Yeah, well, that's great. That's great. And, it was such an interesting time to get everything, when we first started, this market it didn't exist. And to kind of see how it kind of grew and reached a peak, and it sort of is, kind of become what it's kind of become today. And to have been, at least somewhat, myself and, a few other, nothing happens in a vacuum, so there were other people in the United States that were also approaching the same, kind of coming to the same idea and envisioning this what could be a really cool little market. And it's nice that people appreciate it.
Yeah, definitely. What year do you think you really started revving up? And well, why don't you just go back and tell us like the origin story of Strangeco and how it came to be? Like, you and your Gregory, you guys ventured into the designer toy scene very early on, before even this was a scene. Like, we were just kind of just breaking into the U.S. So what were you doing before you discovered the designer toy world, and how did you end up starting your own company producing toys?
So Gregory and I have known each other forever. We were lived next door to each other in the dorms our first year of college, so we've known each other since we were 18, and in our early adult post-college lives, we kind of both did different things, and we ended up living in New York at the same time together. And then individually, we migrated back to the San Francisco Bay Area. And at that time, when I'd come back before Gregory, and I started working, running the business and doing all the business operations for a small consumer electronics retailer in Berkeley that, if you remember mini discs, it was the largest mini disc retailer in the U.S.
Wow.
I was running the business, and Gregory came back, and I had hired Gregory to work doing all of the product purchasing and kind of imagining what the product line was going to look like that we were going to sell. And the iPod got announced, and we quickly realized that the iPod was going to kill mini discs altogether. And so we needed to start looking for another product that we would be able to sell. I guess you would call that a pivot now, but at the time we were thinking we just needed to figure out something else to do. And Mini Disco was owned by, it was the brainchild, and was owned by Paul Budni. And
hold up. I had no idea. So for our listeners, we should probably let them know who Paul Budni is. Paul Budni is the founder of Kidrobot. Another very important person in toy history, really. So yeah, I can continue on. This is really interesting.
Yeah, sure, no problem. So meanwhile, during this whole period of time, somewhere probably in 2000, 2001, Gregory got wind of Michael Lau and the Michael Lau toys, and just kind of his own accord, he started reaching out to people on eBay and started collecting some of the really, really early Hong Kong vinyl stuff and some of the early Japanese vinyl products. And he just had made some contacts with it. And we recognized that there were certain things about this particular cool little market that, was these cool little products. And they were, nothing like anything that we'd ever seen. And, we're kids of the 70s and the 80s. So we grew up with Star Wars toys and Lego and all kinds of other things. So there was that built-in nostalgia. Yep. But then on top of that, we added, quite a number of years of being adults that got, we were into all different kinds of subculture art and music and, all kinds of things that kids are into. And we saw in the Hong Kong vinyl stuff that Greg was collecting that there was something that seemed really, really interesting going on that was unlike anything else that we had seen in the United States. And it also was a product that was much bigger in Asia than it was in the United States, that had a big import kind of aspect to it. There were a lot of things that seemed very similar to mini discs, which was a much bigger format in Japan and China than it was in the United States. And so we kind of came up with the concept to do an online retail store importing products from Hong Kong and Japan that would be within this particular little style of Hong Kong vinyl. And that online retail store became Kidrobot. with it was kind of through Mini Disco. Greg and I, and then with Paul, we kind of cooked up the Kidrobot web store. So this was 2001. We were planning it 2001, and I guess it launched over that summer. And no, I guess it was 2002. This must have been 2002 that we went to. Gregory was making all these trips to Hong Kong. He was going to the Hong Kong Toy Cons, which happened 3 times a year, and it was a collection of maybe 17 or 18 different little, mostly individual artists or little tiny brands that were producing toys from, in limited runs, mostly using rotocasting, rotocasting techniques because it was so much less expensive, and producing this kind of body of work of toys. And, it was coming with Hong Kong youth culture and the Harajuku streetwear scene from Japan and Japanese toy collecting. And, all of this stuff was all kind of mixing up together. And Gregor was making these trips. He essentially met everybody because we were a retailer in the United States and everybody wanted to sell to us. Wow. So he made a lot of friends with, Toy Tour, and he made connections with Eric So and Brothers Free and nice. 3-0, Kim from 3-0. And as he was at this show, there was maybe 2 or 3 other Westerners there at most. And he was walking around having made this, and he's a super nice guy. And he made this, all of these really good connections with all of these people in Hong Kong. During that same weekend, I had brought a whole bunch of products down to the San Diego Comic-Con for the first time for Kidrobot. At the time, this was like a week before the San Diego Comic-Con show. And, I called up Comic-Con and they had a booth available. So it was,
that doesn't happen anymore. You can't do that anymore.
No, I know. And so, I set up shop and we went down and we exhibited. We were behind this big giant Masters of the Universe Castle Grayskull, completely overshadowed by the power of Grayskull and kind of tucked away in the corner. And, I was walking around San Diego Comic-Con and, I met Lev from Toy Tokyo who had a booth there, and I met Connor from Critter Box and a couple of other people. But other than that, I was looking around seeing that there really wasn't anybody else that was showcasing these products. And so Greg at the time was thinking, wow, we could totally be the U.S. distributor for all of these brands in Hong Kong. And I'm at the San Diego Comic-Con thinking, wow, we could be the distributor for all of these brands in the United States. And simultaneous to all this happening, Paul was on Haight Street, and he was really interested in opening a retail shop. So he ended up putting a down payment on, basically signing a lease for a little shop on Haight Street. And we spent about 4 or 5 months with Paul getting the Haight Street store up and running. But I kind of in the back of our minds, Gregory and I had a different vision about what we wanted to do. And we were much, much more interested in distribution and much more interested in production, which ultimately Kidrobot came around to that. But the store opened in November of 2002. Greg and I decided to leave Mini Disco. It was still Mini Disco, and Mini Disco is still the majority of the revenue of the business. But we could all see that it was going in that direction. So we kind of struck out on our own, and we started Strangeco with specifically in mind to make distribution agreements and to represent brands in the United States, but also to produce our own products and to come up with our own ideas. And so that was kind of the genesis and the beginning of Strangeco. It kind of emerged, out of a friendship and out of kind of working in the same business, and then organically kind of growing into our own thing.
That's great. I knew some history, but I didn't know the details of it. Like, I knew that you had done some early retail work for Kidrobot, but I actually didn't know that you would actually work for Paul Budni with the Mini Disc company before Kidrobot even started. I had no idea that was probably Gregory that introduced, the Hong Kong vinyl to both you and Paul, and then you were kind of running the online Kidrobot store on the side, and which means that Kidrobot started out as just sort of an import business of Hong Kong. I didn't know that either. So that's how it all kind of started out, huh?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And to a certain extent, I think that, the Kidrobot, a lot of that kind of vibe, I really attribute to Gregory, who had stumbled on the toys. He read an article on Michael Lau in Giant Robot magazine, and he thought it was so cool. And he just started going for it, and started discovering what was out there, and so he really brought a lot of the idea of what it could be to both myself and I think to Paul as well, and the rest is history. I think that it really kicked off a pretty interesting little market. It seems to me that market, at least from our experience, starting in that was like 2001, maybe 2001, 2002. There was a kind of a big peak in 2000 and maybe 6, 2007, and then the market kind of dropped a lot, and it seems to have plateaued a little bit at this point, and it's kind of cooking along at kind of at a reduced pace, so that there is less of this sense that it's that it's trying to move original character art design into a larger pop culture awareness or marketplace.
Yeah, definitely a lot more licensing today than when you first started, 2001, 2002. Definitely a lot more pop culture, moving product today. But let's get back to I have so many questions. I think probably best just to start in the past and let's work towards the present.
Sure.
So what were the challenges of trying to import and start things here in the States? Because, the Hong Kong vinyl was still pretty much an underground thing. I'm sure to a lot of people it still needed explanation and helping to promote it. Like, how did you go about promoting your brand in a pretty fairly unknown industry here in the States?
Yeah, I mean, we had to do a lot of that ourselves. We had to create it. And I think that that's what we knew going into it. We weren't making licensed products based on the most recent film or television show, or even a nostalgic film or television show. And probably the wave before the early designer toy stuff might have been like Spawn, like McFarlane Toys and Mezco and some of that, which was kind of taking making really beautifully sculpted, really articulated products that were they were referencing something that was still fairly subcultural. Like I wouldn't say that Spawn comics are they're not exactly Princess Leia, but they're popular. They're certainly more popular than what we were doing. And but we were kind of coming into it with at least a little bit of that kind of built in. There was kind of connecting to that collector culture in the United States, but so much of what we had to do is explain that no, it's not based on anything. It's what it's based on is there was a confluence at the time. There was this as the toy thing emerged, there was this also the impact of underground independent comics and street art and little streetwear brands, and there was other kinds of tiny little pop surrealism and all of these different little galleries that were doing more character based fine art, and we kind of came in right kind of at the same time that all of this it felt like it was all kind of coming together as well. And
how did you go about promoting the designer toy scene while all this stuff was going on? Like, there still wasn't a whole big market for it. So did you have to do conventions and Toy Fair and San Diego Comic-Con? And did the word of mouth just spread from there?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it was the internet. We initially, before we even started selling anything, we created a web portal, like a news and information web portal that, our site had features where we would do interviews with artists, and we would do, we did a whole history of Toy-Con when people didn't really know what that was all about. And we would publish information. So our website at first was really like an online magazine, and it was all about what was happening, both in what we saw happening in the United States and what was happening in Hong Kong and in Japan. So beyond that, we really spent a lot of time trying to promote the artists themselves by doing different kind of artist signings and doing different kinds of shows, and trade shows were a big part of it. Definitely a big part of it. We actually did exhibit at the Hong Kong Toy Con for a couple of the shows in 2003. And the San Diego Comic-Con was a really big part of it. We were also really trying to, knock the doors down and get into some of the more traditional, larger retailers, more of the lifestyle retailers, Tower Records and Virgin Megastore, both of which have totally gone by the wayside, and with stores that would be able to move volume, and and they ended up really having an interest in the toys. One of the other things that we did really early on, so we met a lot of different people in the United States that were doing things that were very similar, whether that it was original little hip hop 2.5-inch toys. Roy Miles here in Oakland, we met him really early on at one of the Hong Kong shows, and from him to Critterbox to Jonathan Cathy, who had a company at the time called Achy Breaky Toys that made these goofy little these little head toys that were pretty funny, and they were not friends with you. There were Ugly Dolls, Kidrobot. There were a number of different these brands that were all coming up together, and so we realized that if we really wanted to make an impact in the market and really get the attention of a market that was bigger than what we could sell through just our own knocking on the doors, we went to these trade shows, and in 2004 I called up the marketing department of the New York Toy Fair and just asked them if we could curate a section on the floor of Javits, and they said that we could, and we ended up kind of pooling some marketing dollars. This is friendly competitors, but people that are all essentially swimming in the same direction, trying to build a market together, and we all market together, and you'd walk down. I don't know if any of you guys have been to the New York Toy Fair, but it's in mid-February in New York City, and half the time it's completely blizzarded out, and it's at Javits, which is about as far away to get to on Manhattan as you possibly can get to from a subway line, and most of the larger retailers would have showrooms that would be at the toy building. I think it's right around the Flatiron building, at least it was, and so it was always a trek for buyers to go out to Javits. They would still do it, but when particularly new brands, they don't really give you a whole lot of preferred placement, and so we were there. It was a kind of a wasteland all around us, but our aisle was totally packed.
You guys were in the basement, right? I remember.
Yeah.
You were in the basement with like the international. It was like the international pavilion, and then this cool aisle of toys. I mean, I remember 2004 was the first year I was working, so I went to Toy Fair as a professional for the first time, and I'm pretty sure I remember that in the basement.
That's cool.
Yeah. Wow. There you go. Well, we may have met back then, Ryan.
We may have. I mean, I was into this stuff. I was, when you sent that list to everyone of all the stuff you'd worked on, and when I looked at that, I mean, I've had toys around my house for so long, and nothing's been in package, and most of the toys don't say Strangeco on them, so I hadn't thought about it in so long. I just didn't realize how much stuff you were involved in that was a major part of my collection. Some of the stuff I consider most significant. I mean, the Mars One stuff is fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's some of my favorites. Mario is such a great guy. We had a really great relationship with Mario. In 2004, Mario, we moved into a building that Mario lived in, where he lived upstairs, and there was a storefront in the middle, which we turned into our office, and then downstairs was a big basement that he used as his painting studio. And he was a total night owl, so I'd see him every single day, but I'd be getting ready to knock off work at the end of the day, and he would come downstairs to be painting all night. It was pretty awesome. So so super talented. That guy is amazing, and just I still follow the work that he does, and it's he's moved away from some of the intricate character design that we really utilized for the products that we made, and he's gone much more into kind of a more of an environmental kind of look, and it's all still really beautiful and very distinctive. He's got a really distinctive art style.
It's impressive. I mean, I was looking at this list, and you guys looks like you produced over 50 toys, and like Ryan was saying, what's on this list of toys you actually produced, not including what you helped distribute, is really an impressive list. And I can see today, like, most of this stuff still holds up and is extremely highly sought after. Like the Jeremy, you guys did the Jeremy Fish Bunny Van, and a couple episodes we were talking about the Neo Kaiju project, and those capsule toys, and how amazing it was that back in the early days of the designer toy scene, it seems like a lot of stuff had original sculpts. Like, you guys, an entire miniseries where each artist had an original sculpt for their design, and that's something that you don't see too much of today. A lot of stuff is platform based, where an artist contributes a design to a pre-existing platform. So what you guys were doing in the early days was awesome.
Well, thank you. We intentionally did not produce a platform toy. The closest that we came were we did some mini circus punks with the circus punks out of Fresno. We did a couple of series of those. But we were less interested in the platform toys. I think that we just liked the idea of, and I think our whole approach was that we wanted to take an artist's 2D drawing or painting or design or character that they threw up on walls or wherever the artists were coming from with the art that they were producing. We wanted to take that and make that into as best a representation of their 3D in 3D of their work as we possibly could. And you can't do that with a platform toy. Platform toy is in and of itself. It's rooted in the company that makes it. And that was kind of never our approach. And I think that oftentimes Greg and I would talk about how much of a poor business decision that was.
Yeah.
At least you paid for some of your design and your molds. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every single time. But on top of that, you're also borrowing on the marketing. You can build on the marketing from the previous release if you have a platform toy. And we were essentially, that's part of the reason why we tried to work with artists that we felt like had enough of a fan base that we would be able to appeal to a fan base that would kind of be built in. And in a way, it's like a traditional licensing relationship in that way, just on a different scale and from a different approach and approaching different customers, ultimate customers. But and it was, the sort of the split up in the business. Gregory did he did all of the production with Strangeco. So Gregory and I would meet with the artists, usually more than once, and we would kind of come up with the ideas of the things that we wanted to make. We would usually review and the artists would pitch us some ideas, and we would come up with what we would think either would be that we felt was the most compelling. Taking into whatever factors we could, the least of which is whether we felt like we could actually, there would be an audience for it and we could actually move it, because the last thing you want is to be sitting on inventory. And then Gregory would work with the artists to really reimagine the original art into something that would be 3D. And if you ever need an industrial designer, Gregory Blum is a genius. He's amazing. So, I think that the quality of the production design in a lot of the things that we made really kind of, I think that they came from his insane attention to detail and his focus and his ability to work with the artists. And yeah. I was in charge of sales. I was in charge of other kinds of business development. I was in charge of all of the marketing and most of the business operations. So if it didn't, so that was a lot of what I would handle. Like once the product was, he would make them, I would sell them. Essentially, I would market and sell them. And which isn't to say that I didn't have a lot of input, or that there, we didn't make decisions together on all of those different areas. But that was sort of the general breakdown. So he would really spend a lot of time. I think that he would probably look at every single production that we make, and he would find that one little thing, that one thing that didn't turn out exactly the way that he had envisioned it, and that probably drives him crazy. Where the rest of the world, myself, would be like, that's fucking awesome.
Yeah, no, that's how designers think, right? Like that's what we see as our flaws.
Yeah, there you go.
That's so true.
Jim, do you remember the first product you kind of saw through from concept to sale?
Oh, sure. Yeah. No. So we started organizing Strangeco in November of 2002, and we spent a month in Hong Kong, going to the Hong Kong Toy Con and visiting factories and getting things organized. And at the same time, we were corresponding with Jim Woodring, who we just reached out to. We were big fans of the Frank comics, and we had seen that he had done some products with this Sony capsule toy project, which we had started distributing in the United States, so we knew that we had already seen some of his really crazy, almost like luridly colorful little Crazy Newts characters, and we thought that we could do something with him and so we just found his website and sent him an email, and he was really, he was open to the idea, and so we started working on the doorbell, which was it's sort of like a homage to the Japanese vinyl toys, but definitely with his own little spin on it. It came with a polybag and a header card, and the first time that I remember seeing photos of the actual sculpt, because we did all of the, we essentially produced a set of technical drawings, of turnaround drawings, and sent them to the engineers in China, who then did the sculpting and everything. We didn't do any of that stuff at least at that stage. We weren't doing any of the sculpting in house. And Jim, who was amazing to work with, he really knew exactly what he wanted, and he was able to really, some artists can imagine their work in 3D and draw a blueprint. You're drawing a blueprint for a product. It needs to be exact. And some artists are really, really adept at that, and others aren't. And Jim is really adept at it. And so, even just like little things like that he has some horns on his back, and just like, how the way that it was supposed to be like pearlescent and fluted like a narwhal was one of the comments on the actual blueprint itself. And just, there were little details that he just, he knew what he wanted. He knew how it was going to look. And it was, and he's also just a really brilliant, amazing wordsmith, and fun to, exchange emails and phone conversations with. So answer your question, Ryan, in a long way, just to make a short story long. Yeah, it was the doorbell.
Nice.
Yeah, that's one of my white whales right now.
Really?
Yeah, I'm gonna start trying to find that, because I love it, and I also collect Tim Biscuit's Pollard, and they're kind of in the same realm as far as cuteness, playability on kaiju and whatnot. So that's definitely one I'm gonna be seeking out.
Oh, and the colors are really good. I remember there was a version, a colorway that Pete Fowler designed the colorway, correct?
That's right. Yeah, that was the first time that we did that, and we just reached out to Pete, and we had the oldest trick in the book is, if you're going to do a run of 1,000 units, you do 400 of one color and 200 of another. So we had a mono like a
purple one, right?
Edition that we did that we sold through Super 7 when they first started, had a magazine, and it was like a coupon in their magazine. And we had a couple of main colorways that Jim had designed, and then a couple of other really limited, like a sepia tone and another blue one that's it's also just monotone colors. And then we talked to Pete about doing that purple one, to do his own, because we knew he was a big Jim fan too. And so that was and that one was, that's floating out there too somewhere. It's on somebody's shelf somewhere.
That's my white whale.
While we're all daydreaming about our white whale toys out there, I think this is a good time to take a brief sponsor intermission. So the Marsham Toy Hour is sponsored by printsonwood.com. If you have any artwork or photography that you'd like to see printed on wood, why not go to printsonwood.com? They do an amazing job. They worked with tons of great artists producing limited edition fine art prints on their beautiful sustainable wood, so they would do an amazing job with your art or photography. So head on over to printsonwood.com. We also have StrangeCatToys.com. For all your designer toy needs, head on over to StrangeCatToys.com. And be sure to use the promo code MARSHAM at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And 3D Retro. If you live in the Southern California area, head on over to the Glendale location of the brick and mortar store of 3D Retro. 3D Retro is also online at 3dretro.com. And speaking of 3D Retro is actually the backdrop or location of the new Behind the Counter videocast that Marsham host George Gaspar is taking part in, and along with Ben Gretzky and Jack Venturo. And mentioned on last week's episode, Marsham Toy Hour has joined Behind the Counter as being hosted on the Toy Geeks Network. So if you have any friends that you want to share this podcast with and you just don't know exactly how to explain a podcast, just, send them over to toygeeks.com. That's a real easy way to find us and listen to us over there too. Intermission is over. Let's get back to Jim. So Jim, I'm looking at this list, and pretty much all the artists you work with are, I don't know if they were, how big of a names they were in the beginning, but the list of artists on your list of toys that you guys help produce, they're all big names today. You got Tokidoki and Nathan Giravicius and Jermaine Rogers and Jim Woodring and Jeremy Fish. Like, the list just goes on. And it's like, did you reach out to all of these artists, or I have to imagine with you guys being one of the new, the few actual manufacturers and producers of vinyl toys, I'm sure you guys had your fair share of artists knocking on your door, wanting to pitch you ideas. Did you contact everyone, or did you ever produce a toy from someone who submitted ideas to you?
No, I mean, I think that we certainly did. I mean, it was a combination of both. Certainly when we started, we were knocking on a lot of doors. We were sending a lot of emails, both on the distribution side. We really liked James Jarvis's stuff from the original Silas toys that he was doing in Japan. And we had just seen that he started his own little toy company with his business partner, Russell. He made these, they're the In Crowd series, if you remember those. They're about 2.5-inch characters. They're all in his character design, but they would sort of choose some little pop culture area. The first one were zombies. So we saw those and we thought those were really cool. So we just sent him an email telling him that we were starting to distribute, and we struck up a friendship, and they were a really big part of the distribution side of what we did. Same with Pete Fowler and Jim Woodring. A lot of the early guys, either we contacted or we met them through other people. We met Mars One through Stash. He's a street artist from New York. He used to have a retail shop in San Francisco, and we became really friendly with the owner, who introduced us to Mars One, and that led to being introduced to Upper Playground and their 5024 SF gallery, and that's where we met Sam Flores and Bigfoot and Jeremy Fish. So a lot of the early stuff was just it was about the hustle. It was really about us explaining what we were doing, what we were trying to do, and that we really wanted to work with these different artists. And I think that we over time we gained a reputation of being pretty solid, straight up guys, that we weren't going to be fly by night. We weren't going to not pay you. We were going to give you, instead of design our toy and you'll get a 24 of our products. We would make bona fide licensing deals, and so that there was a financial gain instead of just some toy that would come through, unless that's what the artist wanted. I mean, there are certain artists that only wanted product because they knew that they could turn around and sell it themselves and make more money than they would if they just got a piece of the, a royalty percentage of the production that we sold ourselves. So again, I seem to be a little long-winded on this one, but as we started to develop and put more products out there, and we became more of a mainstay in the market as the market was developing, a lot of artists would come to us. Probably the biggest one was Tokidoki, and this so Tokidoki. It takes nothing but work to start your own business, to run your own business. And especially a couple of years in, if you've got some traction, you never have any free time. And so people would call me all the time, and I would generally field a lot of those kinds of phone calls. and Tokidoki, one of the guys at Tokidoki, not Simone, who we met later, but one of the business folks over there, he called me and he was pitching it and talking about all these different things they were doing. And they were that they had this big project with Le Sportsac. And, I had this image of Le Sportsac. It's 1984, not quite what it turned out to be.
Uh-huh.
And I really liked the design, but I just kept on tabling it because I was just too busy. I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, I'll get back to you. And then Gregory and we had hired Emily Bro, who she's now runs the business development for Tokidoki, but she's been doing that for years, but she was our first employee and totally awesome. And they were on some other trip and went down and just met with Simone and Puna and Ivan. And they were like, oh my God, we got to do this. So they kind of put it together. I almost fucked that shit up,
The one that got away almost.
And luckily, they were persistent. It really also just speaks to the, a lot of the things we just wanted to work with people that we really liked too. Yeah. And so meeting people in person was always such a great thing for us. And it always goes better if there isn't any friction, so that was, first we had to really like the design and the art, there had to be something about it that appealed to us on a personal level, collaboratively and individually. And then we had to make sure that we felt like we could, if it was going to be produced into a product that it would be able to, the market would be able to bear it. And, we took a lot of risks too. But the artists, we also had to really felt like we had to have a good connection with the artists, and there's just my experience is that there's, most of the time they were always just gems of people that that you would be able to work with and get to know. So Tokidoki, who else reached out to us? We did a project with an artist named Dean Bradley called Mainframe, and that came to us. And I think that you just end up making connections as you go. And a lot, we would get a lot of submissions. We, to the point that we just simply had to put something on our website about, you can send us your submission, we'll take a look at it, but we can't guarantee that we're going to do it or that we'll be able to get back to you anytime soon. The other thing is that a lot of the artists we worked with became our best advocates. Like, Mario introduced us to Shepard Fairey. And he had a really good relationship with all of these artists in San Francisco, like, Bigfoot and Sam Flores and Jeremy Fish, and they all knew each other. He was really close with Scene. And so the more that we got to know people, the more that people had good experiences with us as a brand, the easier it was for us to be able to kind of step into into bringing on some what we felt were more higher caliber artists that we felt like already had enough of a fan base to be able to kind of move the product. And we were, I don't know, Kim and I are kind of hippies in that way. We like, it's not that we weren't thinking about the bottom line, because we certainly were, but we really wanted, we felt like we were making art. We felt like what we were doing is we were something that was more along the lines of a limited edition print than a product, than a toy. And even though it had a lot of those elements and there was playability, and we always wanted to have at least something about it that would be, kind of bring it back, whether it was the way that it was articulated or the way that the package referenced an older toy, or there was some combination of things that would bring it back to that. We really, felt like we were producing, a piece of art, and that was the primary goal in what we were trying to do. It was fun.
Yeah, for sure.
Super fun.
I mean, you mentioned packaging just a second ago. Like, that was some of the best stuff about the early designs of designer toys. Some of the insanely creative packaging that came out. I can think of one, two of my favorite toys that of all time you guys had a hand in is the Bumble and Tweet by Julie West. And that came in a really beautiful, clear cylinder packaging where the artwork is printed on the clear and you can see the toys through the print work, and it's just gorgeous. And, you don't see too much of packaging design really today. I think, in today's toys, it just seems like it's mainly,
just a box.
Just a box, not a whole lot of creative thought put into it, But, back in the heyday, you guys and Kidrobot and, some of the early companies, you guys were doing really great packaging to kind of complement the toy, which is really cool.
One of my favorite packaging that you guys made, it was those card boys. It was a box that kind of like flipped around and the toy was inside and you would like put it together. You remember those?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, to be fair, we didn't produce. That was a Playbeast product that we distributed.
It was it? I thought you guys manufactured those.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm like
wrong, man.
Carlos, you either didn't do your research or you like Playbeast a lot more than you like Strangeco.
I know, I love the Fowler. But it's one of those things that I would go into the website and I didn't know which ones you were producing back then. Like some of them I knew, but some of them I just saw them there and I was like, oh, they must be producing these because it's awesome. I mean, you also took the chance to promote all these other toys that they wouldn't have seen the day of light if it wasn't because of you guys, taking the chance of moving them and getting them out everywhere. I mean, being in Mexico, it was really hard to get these things.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the list of the stuff that you guys have distributed. Like you mentioned Playbeats, and you did stuff with Friends with You, and just a couple weeks ago we were talking about the Meiwa Denki band toys. So you helped distribute those in the States through their company called Cube Works, and you also did the company Flying Cat and Circus Punks and Spumco, and I mean, gosh, you just helped distribute a lot of those early toys, and without you distributing, I don't know, how a lot of these toys would have had a market in the States. So
yeah, you got an awful lot of my money, Jim.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow, what happened to that shit, man?
Yeah, I was gonna say I would be happy to keep on giving you that money.
Oh
yeah. Well, I think on the distribution side, we our approach is that we wanted to carry products. There was like DKE toys that DKE was kind of brandless in a way. They would they were like a pure distributor, that they would carry, they would pretty much take in everybody's products and they would sell it. So they were a really big clearinghouse, and they really populated a lot of these little networks of designer toys that were, designer toy stores that were popping up all over the place. For us, because we were, we also had it. We were thinking about it from the perspective of almost like a curatorial perspective. And with the lines that we would take on, we only wanted to represent products that we felt like we could take them on as if they were our own productions. So, for example, Pete Fowler, the whole Monsterism series all of them were so amazing. From the very first ones that they did with Sony that were all interchangeable, to the later series that they did after they kind of moved in and did, they did these gachapon toys, and then they started doing their own products, and to like the giant Snorse, and the Cardboy toys that they did with a different artist, a guy named Mark James. To its novelties, to even some of the magazines and books that we distributed. We did. There's a German publisher called Gestalten, Die Gestalten Verlag, and we distributed all of their books. We weren't their only distributor in the U.S., but we kind of specialized in this particular market. And we took on Clutter and High Fructose, and we would have other opportunities with people like Friends with You, and where they would make products. We also were licensed stuff from them, and we would produce our own stuff under our own brand with Friends with You. But we would also distribute pretty much anything that they made and sold. And we ended up kind of working with people that we felt like were a good reflection on what we were trying to accomplish through the brand. And that, if like Carlos, like you just said, that, if the Cardboy toy was next to another Strangeco product, it would be seamless, and that it would just be cool art, essentially.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow, I think when you talk, it's like Strangeco was cooking. You guys are doing extremely well. I know a lot of our listeners, and even myself included, we were all kind of wondering like what happened to Strangeco. But let's just tease that. That's we are going to get into that, but let's not jump into that just yet. But when you mentioned that you guys were all the companies were going to like Toy Fair and whatnot, everyone was kind of pitching in for the same cause to elevate things to become a little more mainstream. Would you say there was more camaraderie between all the companies? But I have to imagine with a lot of you guys are probably competing for the same artist and whatnot. Was there a culture of competition among the companies back then too?
I mean, we're all friendly competitors. I think we all recognized that we were all competing for the same shelf space, and that the buyer for Urban Outfitters only had so much space, and they were only going to take the stuff that they felt like they were going to be able to really sell through, even though they were willing to take a chance on a bunch of different stuff. It's different if you're selling to Whitney and Kirby at Rotofuji or Magic Pony in Toronto or any of these other, little shops. There was at least one designer toy retail shop in every major city in the United States, and which is pretty cool for a period of time that network had developed. So to get back to your question about whether it was friendly, mostly friendly competitive. I think that we mostly really liked each other. Of course, there, like anything, particularly anything that's like small and kind of boutique and subculture and art related, there of course there's going to be a beef here and there, and some people aren't going to like other people. But for the most part, that was not either that stuff worked itself out over time, because we all felt like we wanted to swim in the same direction instead of kind of fighting over the same scraps. But I got to tell you that every time that we like the San Diego Comic-Con was a really big deal. During the aughts, during that whole period of time, and similar to Toy Fair, I called up the exhibits manager at San Diego Comic-Con. I just asked them if we could curate a section that became the Cult Yard, which was there for a fair amount of time, quite a few years. And same thing where, we all basically all of these different little brands all exhibited together. And, we ended up convincing Comic-Con to reorient the shape of the aisles. So it was more like a yard, you kind of like would walk into it and there would be booths all around you. Yep. And parties were always great. Everybody hung out with everybody else. And, Monkey King always had this party in San Diego, and it was like everybody, I don't know. It's like people don't see each other very much, and then they would all kind of get into the same place and we'd all stay up all night and hang out and go to parties and,
Oh yeah.
drink. and I think that was that was more it was more towards that than it was towards like division. I think there was more of a unity about it, and people really respected a lot of the work that other people are doing. I don't know, I would imagine that's still the same thing now. I don't imagine that spirit has changed that much.
No.
In the little world, I don't really know where the gathering spots are. I presume it's probably Designer Con and maybe one or two other spots where my dirty little secret, and apologies to Ben Goretzky, but back in the day, we exhibited once at Designer Con, but I never actually been to that show, so I don't really know what it's like and how it's grown. But I have imagined it's similar, that it's kind of carrying a lot of that same spirit that I felt existed, back in the day.
No, we all meet outside and have a knife fight. Is how it usually goes.
And Jim, if you ever do decide to go to DesignerCon, now you're gonna have to strip down naked, and someone's gonna walk behind you, ringing a bell, yelling "shame." That's what's gonna be happening. So I would probably avoid going to DesignerCon.
On the throne, after. Yeah. in the next season.
I mean, it's not just you though. I haven't gone in probably 3-4 years too, so I would be in the buff just like you, probably being shamed as well. Yeah, so I mean, it's interesting that you started the Cult Yard at San Diego Comic-Con, and for years, like, that was the place that so many companies they anticipated, and they would save all the product. Like, San Diego Comic-Con was the big place to release all your toys. That's where most companies probably made a lot of the revenue for the year, and I don't think that's the case anymore. I think San Diego Comic-Con is starting to slip a lot more, and other conventions like New York Comic-Con and
DesignerCon.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think DesignerCon is essentially what San Diego Comic-Con was back then. It's all about DesignerCon now.
I would go for DesignerCon because still New York Comic-Con is cool, but it's still pricey, and if you want to get a booth, it's super expensive, and it comes back to the whole thing, like, you want people to spend money in the convention rather than for the convention.
Yeah.
So
Jim, when you guys were all together at Toy Fair, because Toy Fair is different than Comic-Con, right? Comic-Con is like a retail sales show. Toy Fair is an industry show. What was the goal? Was that when you were saying you were trying to get into Tower Records? Is that what you were doing at Toy Fair?
No, I mean, we were looking for retailers. Yeah, I mean, okay. It's a business to business show, and we were there on the business to business level. So our first year, we were trying to meet retailers. That was pretty much it. We were dating, we were out down. We were trying to get our shit as far as we could in the coolest stores as we could. And, come down the aisle with, it could be anybody from Tower Records to some little store in Minneapolis that's just getting going, to Diamond Comics, to, distributors in other countries that carry different kinds of products. And, it was a lot of media would come through as well. So it was but we were really trying to, especially in those early days, we stopped going to to San Diego, to the New York Toy Fair in, I think our last year was maybe 2005. I think that was the last year we actually exhibited at the New York Toy Fair. But we were really trying to break into a market. Greg and I had no background in toys. We were like, I studied film, and Greg was a theater arts guy, and we kind of fell into this, and so we learned all of it by running a business, and by just doing it. And I mean, if there's anything that I can say is, like, if you have an idea, as crazy as it may seem, and you don't really know how to do it, there's a great Richard Branson quote where he's like, if you have an opportunity and you don't know what to do, say yes and figure it out. Like, that was a lot of what I felt like we were really doing, was just, we were learning on the go. Maybe this is something that every entrepreneur needs to have, but I never thought it wasn't going to work. I just felt like there was something that I was seeing, and I mean, I wasn't alone. Gregory and I were seeing it, and there were other companies that were seeing it, that there was really something that we could grow with, and that we could really make happen. And that's what we were doing at a New York Toy Fair. We were just trying to make it all happen, and we ended up meeting a lot of people and doing really well. And, there are certain, if Spencer Gifts kind of came down the aisle, we might not necessarily have, I don't know if we would have sold to them or not. It's really hard to tell. And
yeah.
In hindsight, Probably not, because I think that we also were trying to, we also recognized that we were selling to boutiques. That was really where a lot of that's where the engine was. You could get a really big PO from a big retailer that would then put their shit in their store and it would totally look terrible and they would end up wanting to return it to you or they would blow it out. And then that brings the value down for everybody else that's really trying to do a good job by your products. And so we were really trying to be really careful about, at the same time that we wanted to make a living at it, we wanted to make we wanted to have a company, we wanted to have a brand, we wanted to grow it as big as we could, but we kind of wanted to do it on our own terms. Oh, to just get another thing I want to talk about, which I think is, you were talking about the packaging, and I think that one of the things that I found to be most interesting is that we had access to mass production in a way that felt really new to us, and so the packaging design was part of the art. It was, that was kind of part of it. It was that we wanted the product to be, if you were to take, the Doorbell or Silly Pink Bunny Van or the Mars One, some of that early stuff that we made, or Invisible Plan or Neo Kaiju, we want, if you saw that in a store and it was next to, trying to think of something contemporaneous to the time, but to whatever, any other kind of like Hasbro product, that if they were in the same store and they were next to each other, like we were kind of getting it over on the big guys, because we were doing exactly what they were doing, but we were making something that was way fucking cooler, and totally unique and was, and had real art value. And that's the kind of thing that you can do with a brand, I think, that if you can make something where you can meet the minimums of a factory, whether that's China or Japan, mostly China. China is really about volume. Japan's much more about smaller runs. But I think that was a big part of what we felt was innovative. And we did, and so packaging design was always really important, but it wasn't only us, if you really like some of the stuff that we did, there's also, back in the day, Kidrobot they set the tone.
Oh yeah.
They would have packaging where you would pull the figure out and turn it over and then pull these legs out and you turn the package into the actual
into a car.
Itself.
Yeah, into the car. Yeah.
And they had all kinds of stuff like that I think that Connor Libby from Creator Box and Gregory and me, we really shared a lot of the same like aesthetics, a lot of the same likes. So we were very friendly, but we definitely wanted to work with the same artists. that was very complicated. So.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. But because you guys did such nice packaging, I generally like to just buy a toy, take it out of the box, and throw the box away. But I have closets full of beautiful boxes. I cannot bring myself to throw in the trash. So thank you for filling up my closet space.
I agree with you.
Yeah, anytime, no problem. When we first started, the blind box concept was really, really hard to sell to retailers. So like Neo Kaiju was not a blind box series. Each of them had a label around them that indicated what they were. I think our first blind box series was
it Vivisect?
No, it was Invisible Plan, the Mars One Invisible Plan.
I remember buying those and it being like, wow, I don't know what I'm getting, but I'm sure they're all cool. That was that was an experience.
Yeah, those were so cool. I really, so detailed, really detailed. They were pretty amazing.
I just found one of those recently because we're packing up our house, and I packed up a bunch of them. I packed up all my Mars One stuff, and then I took a shelf down, and there was one that had fallen behind something else and was sitting on the back of the shelf, and I was like, oh hey little guy. I
raised kids all through Strangeco the entire period of time.
Oh man!
So there's and I generally took the approach of like, if there's something really special, then don't fucking break it, kids, but most of the time I would just let them go and let them, I would like have my own set of toys and then I would give them other ones that I would, and so over the years, just as things have kind of shifted and filtered around, I've ended up with a lot of those back and they are beat up. Beat up, like a silver turtle camper, that's like got marker all over it.
Oh, you're making collectors cry right now.
No, it's true. Well, you can thank my kids for that.
The kids are good at that.
They are. It's true.
All right, Jim, it's time to get to the tough question that everyone's probably wondering. What happened? What happened with Strangeco? Why is Strangeco no longer around today?
Well, it was primarily we got really slammed by the economic downturn. We had 2006 and 2007 were really big years. 2008 was a really good year. And like literally within 2 months in the early part of 2009, right after all of the markets collapsed, we saw stores not being able to pay us or shuttering or being overburdened with inventory that they weren't able to take anything more on. And, like any other inventory-based business, you have to be able to turn stuff over. You need the turn. And if you don't have the turn, you end up having a lot of your capital caught, stuck in the products that you made, that you've made. And it became increasingly more difficult for us to be able to move the products that we made. As amazing as some of them were, it was just really, it was really difficult. And we had started to branch into a variety of different other areas. We were really interested in making more bona fide kids toys that would be kind of taking the designer toy model and making really beautiful kids toys. We had a really big project with the New York Museum of Modern Art that came out right at that time, and it was a big project with interchangeable pieces, and it was it became very difficult to sell because stores were really backing away. Toys, collectible toys are the definition of a non-essential product. And people were scared. And I think that we really felt that. And so overnight, we just had a much more difficult time trying to move the products that we had. And we weren't alone in that. So that was happening. At the same time, in early 2009, this is related to the kids' toys. The Consumer Product Safety Information Act was passed, which was or Improvement Act, sorry, which is an augment to the regular consumer product safety laws that in the United States. And we had already, which really affected testing. This was emerged out of all the, lead paint on toy scandals that were happening, about maybe 10 months to a year earlier than that. And at that time, the law was written that no matter where the product was in the supply chain, you had to retest everything essentially to a new standard. And it was really costly. And so not only were we experiencing a slowdown in sales, but we also had this backlog of inventory that we needed to retest in order to establish a confidence for the retailers who were already losing confidence in carrying any product like this. So it became very, very hard for us. And that we kind of limped through that last year in 2009. We ended up releasing some pretty cool stuff. We did the Mr. Spray with Shepard Fairey, and we did another series of King Ken minifigures with James Jarvis. And I can't remember what we did. We were doing a really cool project called Double Super that we did co-branded with 3-0 in Hong Kong, and that we released one of those products at that point. But on top of all of this, Gregory and I have personal lives too. Like we need to live our lives, and we were essentially facing a decision about whether to double down back into the garage and completely retool the business. Or to figure out a way to wind it down. And we opted to wind it down. And I think that, at that point, neither of our hearts were really into it anymore. So we ultimately made that decision that instead of continuing to make the slog through it, we were going to, kind of close up shop and end things on a high note than to, I got to tell you that it's been a number of years. It's been about 6 years, going on 7 years, and I certainly have saved a friendship with Gregory Blum as a result of that. Like we're still friends today, and I think that it doesn't often happen with friends that become business partners. They usually they often end up no longer liking each other, and that's not the case with him and me. And so sometimes you have to make a sacrifice in order to get a larger gain. And I think that we ended up kind of essentially kind of getting our our individual lives back, and you know, from a business that was really taking a lot from us, and not really at that point, it wasn't really giving a whole lot back in return. You know, we left some pretty cool stuff on the table, which is kind of too bad. We had a really great project that we were working on with Buona Spoons.
Oh no! I think I saw him show those ones. They looked amazing.
Yeah, they were cool. It was a really involved project, and you know, we had all this stuff with Double Super. We had a really cool. We were doing like this giant Puppet, which was a Gary Basement giant. It was one of the Neo Kaiju figures. We were doing one of these really big ones. There's probably in a storage unit somewhere that all of the original sculpts and all of the prototypes are all sitting there somewhere. So
Wow.
yeah. But you know, I mean, I don't really regret the decision. You know, I think that it was, you know, when I think about it now, and I've you know, since you talked to me, Gary, about doing this, I've been kind of reflecting on it. I actually wonder whether the market as it stands today would be able to support a company like Strangeco any longer. You know, there doesn't seem to be enough of a market there for a brand to come in and to be able to kind of make any kind of impact, to be able to produce like we were doing. And unless you're doing licensed products, which seems to me the direction, and then there's nothing wrong with that. I certainly don't think there's anything, you know, that there's any issue with that. And there can be some really cool, innovative stuff, but it seems like you know, if the fringe makes the party, we were kind of the fringe, you know, but now like, you know, the party is really, you know, it's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Family Guy, you know, and it's not Mars One, you know, and it's sort of Tokidoki. I think it's still Tokidoki, but they're kind of like the exception to the rule.
Sure. No, I think you're, you know, exactly right. I think today's a lot of the companies that are still around is because they went into licensing, and it's because of that pop culture. That's what's keeping them alive and paying the bills and helping, because of the, you know, the licensing stuff doing well. That's what they're able to take some risk on some of the, you know, the artists or art toys that they're producing. And I think that's just kind of where we are today. So I really don't think that maybe a company like a Strangeco could do what you were doing back then today, you know, with all the molds and all the original sculpts and all the stuff that you guys were doing. I can't imagine, you know, that being done today. Can you see it, Ryan, knowing the cost of all this stuff?
No, I mean, I think it's, you know, someone's going to call us out on something and prove us wrong. But no, I don't think there's anyone kind of, you guys were a product development company with a product development pipeline and a, you know, and a strategy, and you were doing high quality work consistently. I think there's lots of people still releasing toys, but nobody doing it as, you know, a cohesive business plan, or no one doing it on a regular schedule. And certainly the amount of detail and features and quality that you guys put into it is just, it's not there anymore. We're kind of at a different place.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the cost of a mini figure series with all the molds that you guys have. I mean, that was just, you know, astronomical, you know, cost that you guys, you know, incurred. And so that's why today you just don't see, you know, minifigure sets like Vivisect Playsec or the Neo Kaiju project. You don't see that sort of stuff anymore because of that cost. And yeah, I mean, what you guys are doing, you know, back then was incredible.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, I think that there's a volume part of it too. Like, if you don't have a network of you know, a big enough network of retail shops that are able to support, you know, even a production run of 5,000 units, if you're doing like a larger vinyl piece, you know, I mean, minifigures, you'd have to make quite a bit more than that just to get the price to where it needed to be. But you know, I don't know. Again, you know, I don't really, I'm not that clued into the market any longer like I used to be. So I mean, you're right, Ryan, there might be somebody who's like, well, what about this company? What about that? And, you know, certainly I'm not, you know, I have no you know, it's no judgment one way or another about it. I just, you know, when I think about it from the economics, I just don't see that you could do what we did today in, you know, with the same kind of level of production and
right. You couldn't deliver the same level of production and package on one figure, let alone enough to keep your year going, right? Yeah. Like I'd say, we talk about all the great things that your products had. I mean, I think the package was the first thing to fall off, right? Like that became the first non-essential when price structures started changing and when it became more difficult to do this stuff was the package. Then maybe the sculpt and the decoration got simplified and the articulation got removed or simplified. I mean, you guys had your products were so vastly different, but they all carried the same level of quality and attention to detail, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why a lot of those toys today are so highly sought after. I mean, it's strange to think that some of these toys are maybe 6 to 10 years old, but at this point they're considered like retro toys in the designer toy scene. But because of the quality and the level of the sculpting work and everything, and I think it's kind of strange that as much new product as there is coming out today, is like I think myself, and a lot of other people, we're going back and seeking out the stuff that we missed because we didn't start collecting early enough. So I'm gonna be trying to find that. A lot of the older toys is kind of what I'm seeking out today, more so than new releases.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Huh. What's cool out there? Honestly, I'm a little bit of as I've described myself, I'm a little encased in amber. Like I don't really know, what out there has been really kind of exciting productions. What do you guys?
Yeah, a lot of the toy scene has kind of gone a lot of independent production. You're seeing a lot of artists doing their own resin casting today. You're starting to see a lot of more artists kind of going the Sofubi route. We're not seeing a whole lot of China production anymore, at least not from self-producers like myself. For, back in 2006, someone like me or Scott Tolson, we could now go and have a run of 600 figures made in China. You're not seeing a whole lot of that today. Companies like Kidrobot seems to have a really nice turnaround happening. There was a point there that they were on the brink of going out of business, it seemed like, but some smart moves, and it seems like today they're profitable and doing well. But again, they're doing a lot of licensed products. Companies that are doing seemingly well, like Mighty Jaxx, Kidrobot, like even companies like 3A, they got licensed product in their portfolio.
Yeah. My buddy Jonathan's got the Loyal Subjects, and he seems like he's killing it with that. And Funko is like they took the whole platform toy model and they went insane with it.
Yeah.
And I got it. I mean, more power to them. It takes a lot to manage a business, to have employees who are counting on you to make the right decisions and to keep them, they've got livelihoods and they have families that they're trying to keep, fed and housed and everything. And it takes a lot to do that. And you got to go where the market is. And so if that's where the market is, I think that's great. I think that they should continue to do that. It would be nice to see, and if some of those larger companies that are able to support some bigger volume, do you feel like they still do the occasional really artful piece that may just be a loss leader, but gives them, the ability to make something unique or innovative?
There's definitely some companies around still doing original works and whatnot. I mean, I can think of. Unbox is doing a lot of great stuff, Power. But, those companies, they're not producing probably in the volume that you guys were doing, or they're not releasing as many toys as you guys are doing, either. These are, very limited releases coming out throughout the year. And even a company like, Kidrobot, they're not really doing original artist-produced toys, really much anymore at all. Most of their stuff is either platform-based, artists, contributing designs to the Dunnies or the Labbit or whatever, and then producing licensed work. They're not really doing much original stuff anymore.
That's cool. So you realize what I just did here? I flipped it. Now I'm interviewing you guys.
I know, right? What happened? So when you guys went out of business, what happened to the distribution channel? Did you just have a warehouse of stuff that... Did you have to do fire sales and give stuff away, or what happened to all that stuff that was in the distribution warehouse?
We gracefully sold most of it off. We had a little bit left that we actually ended up selling over to Dove at DKE. Just whatever remainder, we had to wrap it up by the end of that year. So whatever was left over, we just made a deal with him.
Okay.
And it wasn't much, and I can't imagine that he has any of it left, but maybe, who knows? yeah, so that's essentially what we did. But we really had ramped down our production that last year, so we were just selling what we had off as rapidly, as we could without really killing too much of the price. And we did okay with that. I think we did okay with that.
That's good. Can you guys think of any other companies that Jim was kind of talking about that's taken chances like on original character design work? It seems like a lot of it is licensed, but I can think of like maybe the Huck G Go Life series that Mighty Jax is doing. That's all original character based. That's a kind of seems like a large run of original toys.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Mighty Jax is doing some original stuff. I mean,
Unbox is doing tons of original work with.
They're a cool company. I really like. I can't remember his name, but he's a really, really cool dude.
Dan Willett.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing a lot of really amazing original stuff. You're not seeing a whole lot of licensing coming out of Unbox, and other companies like. Are you familiar with Mondo?
No.
Okay, they were a really big, primarily like pop culture, like in the print world, but they started getting into very high quality production toys. But again, it's a lot of it's licensed. Ninja Turtles and Mad Balls and Iron Giant. It seems like a lot of these companies, like Mad Balls, in the last month or two, I think there's like 4 companies now all releasing Mad Balls type stuff. I don't know if there was a licensing expo sale on Mad Balls, but a lot of companies are using that license right now.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, a lot of that stuff kind of, the company itself will figure out that they have an IP that they can, has some value, and they'll put a program together. There could be internal changes in the company that forefronts the licensing part of it. Who knows? I mean, yeah, they could have had a great booth at the licensing show.
It could be. It seems like a very popular brand. A lot of people jumped on, and you're starting to see everyone release at the same time right now. And
yeah, that's interesting.
Super 7, another company that you guys collaborated with, like on Kaiju Project, and that's another company that today, they're still producing some of their Monster Family stuff every once in a while, but they've really gone into they've taken over the Maddie Collector of the Masters of the Universe line. And so they're doing a lot of heavy licensing stuff today, too. Oh, and Super 7's also retained back their Reaction figure line back from Funko, so they have all that licensed product coming in as well.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, I'm having a real hard time thinking of anyone that I would be comfortable, putting in the same category as Strangeco. Like it's I can't even put my finger on what it is, but it's just you guys are legendary. That's what it is.
I mean, that's probably what it is, or maybe it's just that legendary status that Strangeco had. I just don't think that any company today is doing what they were doing. Like they were a big brand. I think even though Unbox is doing a lot of amazing original creations, I just don't feel that Unbox is like that big of a brand built that that Strangeco had. They were really good at brand building, and even a company like Toy Cube, they're doing a lot of original stuff, like that thing that released with Alex Pardee this year. It was incredible. But again, it's like very few releases actually coming from Toy Cube. It's Strangeco was releasing such high quality stuff and high volume, and a lot of pieces were coming out every month. There was an amazing new release. We just don't have that today. At least not as far as original artist creations. Just a lot of licensed stuff, a lot of platform based stuff.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
I feel caught up.
Yeah, there you go. We'll catch up in another decade. Hopefully, this toy scene can still last I think it will. It will last another 10 years. The collectors are still great, and it's not what it once was, but I think we've learned a lot of what happened in the past decade to be a little more cautious and careful of how we proceed going forward, and I think we have enough to maintain.
Well, I am glad to hear that. That's great.
Hey guys, you guys have any other questions for Jim?
No, I'm good. I'm very educated now.
Yeah, there's no more assuming. We kind of know what's been going on. It's really been cool talking to you, Jim, and catching up and learning everything that you brought to the table. And thank you for doing what you did. I don't know that I'm sure that, designer toy scene probably would have, become what it has, but with you developing the toy cult yard at San Diego Comic-Con and working with all the toy magazines and bringing the Hong Kong vinyl over here and distributing it, like, I really do believe that you had a large part to do with why many of us discovered and started collecting, designer toys. Strangeco definitely had an impact and left a large footprint.
Well, thank you, Gary.
Well, you're welcome.
Very nice.
And I'll say the same to Gregory when I talk to him one day.
Oh, good. Yeah. Excellent.
And I'm glad to hear that, with the company closing and everything, you guys are still able to maintain the friendship. Like you said, that's not always easy to pull off. And I'm very happy to hear that you guys are still good friends.
Yeah. He's a prince among men, Gregory Blum.
Nice. All right, Jim, I think that was a great conversation. Thanks again for joining.
No lightning round?
You could do a lightning round. Let's see how I do.
You want to do? All right.
Come on, dude.
All right, Jim. We're going to hit you with some lightning round now. It's going to be a quick burst round of questions, and let's see how you do.
Okay.
What was your favorite childhood toy?
Oh, probably the thing that most impactful would have been like the Kenner Star Wars toys from the 70s. Of which I still have an original 16-inch. I think it's about 16 inches. Darth Vader. It's like the only toy I have from my childhood.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely it was Star Wars. It was all about the Star Wars toys.
Okay. Do you remember what your first designer toy purchase was?
Well, it was either the Bearded Prophet by James Jarvis, or the might have been one of the Eric So Sprite figures. One of those two, I think. I think it was one of those two.
Was there a toy or a toy line that some other company made that you guys wish you really had?
Oh, wow. That we really had.
Yeah, because I know you guys are competing for artists and whatnot. Was there another company that got something from another artist that you guys wish you had gotten first?
Well, I don't know. There was a guy that there's an artist named Brendan Monroe that made these really cool. God, I can't remember what they were called, but they were like oval, but mostly face, and they have like little like leaves on them. They were super cool, and we were trying to grab the Sours. There you go, the Sours. So yeah, we met with him, and he ended up going with another company, which was a bummer because we really wanted to do those and other stuff with him.
Yeah, actually a couple of weeks ago, Ryan joined the show, and we did a throwback episode talking about some of our favorite toy lines in the past, and the Sours was one of Ryan's selections.
I was really? working with Glenn at Android 8 when he did this. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah.
He had a really weird website that you would have to use the arrow keys on. Do you remember that?
And it played music.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
All right. When you displayed your collection, did you have a toy that was most prominently displayed, or a favorite toy that never moved? Like move after move after move, like that toy was always out?
Oh, well, I mean, I have a few toys. I don't have that many toys on display in my house now. Let's see. What do I can tell you what I have on display. It won't take very long. I have Humpty Jin, which was Todd Shore, one of the minifigures from the Neo Kaiju project.
Uh-huh.
That's in my kitchen. I have the Midnight Crooner, the Nathan Oda toy we did. This was the last production that Strangeco did, which is super cool. It's kind of sitting on a cloud base. It's designed for a gallery. The original painting was from a gallery 1988 show that was all about David Lynch. So it's like Dean Stockwell from Blue Velvet, kind of done in this Nathan Oda style. I have an original hand made red flyer from Friends with You.
Awesome.
And I have, so that's it. No, I have three more. I have three in the bathroom. that Darth Vader I was talking about, a Cause Darth Vader next to it, and then a silver Mr. Spray that we made with Shepard Fairey.
Nice. Okay.
That's what I got. And they're kind of spread out. I sort of like the less clutter and more about having, kind of thinking about the the toy as a more as a design object that augments a space instead of a bunch of different toys that take over a space.
I agree.
That's part of my aesthetic now, and so that's what I have on display. That
Right.
sums them all up.
Okay, you know how being in this industry, a lot of your friends and family, they just don't understand what we're into, right? Was there a specific toy that you can remember that a friend went, you paid what for what?
Yeah, I think that that would go for pretty much the entire 8 years of Strangeco. Like you're spending that much money on that? No, the one of the nice things is that swag made the world go round, and so there would be lots of trading going on. So like I have to say most of the toys that I have were things that were given to me or was kind of in the flow of exchange of products. So I think that probably the most that I spent on something, like straight out most I ever spent was I bought, and I still have this. It's pretty amazing. The Toy-Con Edition Brothers Robber 12-inch figure, which if you don't know what it is, look it up. It's incredible. Like, they have like this duffel bag full of money that's all these, 1/6 scale, $100 bills that are all bundled and wrapped. It's just nuts.
Wow.
It's fucking crazy. So it's something that they did with 3.0, and it's really detailed. So I spent a lot of money on that.
I used to have that one
for it because I think people thought it was cool.
and it's actually like the money has $1 million on
Isn't it
little. Yeah, it's nuts. It's like $1 million on like little individually printed $100 bills.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, plus it's got like all the tailoring, and it's like the clothing is all really distressed, and
the tools.
The tools, and they all work,
and they all work, like the little pliers work.
Yeah,
dude, those guys always take these toys into like a complete different realm. It's insane.
Yeah, I interviewed them in Hong Kong once, like I don't know, 2003 maybe. Went to their office, and it was nuts. Like just walking, like seeing all of the big, they had they had a big 9/11 diorama that they made, and they were in the middle of working on that, and there was stuff like everywhere. They were really inspiring guys. I'm sure they still are, and I haven't talked to them in a while.
Yeah, they're still around in Hong Kong.
Wow. Okay, well, we're going to end it with the last question, the important question. What is your favorite Patrick Swayze film?
Oh, Donnie Darko. Come on.
Oh, okay, good one. We haven't heard that. I don't think
that's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a bit part in that. If you want like a supporting role, like starring Patrick Swayze, I don't know, man. Nobody puts baby in a corner. Come on.
There you go. Yeah, it's not my favorite, but I think Dirty Dancing still holds up.
There it is. Right.
Well, Jim, thanks again for joining us. It was great catching up with you and finding out. I mean, it was awesome. I know it took a while for us to get you, but it was well worth it.
Yeah, I'm honored you guys talked to me. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, so why don't we wrap it up? Jim, why don't you take a brief moment and let everyone know where they can find you or anything you want to help promote?
Well, sure. I have a website. It's jamesvcrawford.com. There's not a whole lot there, but there might be something someday. If there's an opportunity to pimp a few things, go to crawfordnautical.com. That's the family business. It's a trade school for merchant sailors. It's been around since the 20s.
Awesome.
So,
wow.
And you can go check that out and, get your Coast Guard licenses and, work on merchant ships.
Nice.
Very cool. Ryan, where can people find you?
Brotherford.com. That'll lead you anywhere else you need to go.
All right, and looking forward to your future segment there, Dr. Rutherford.
Professor Rutherford.
Professor.
It's Dr.
Please.
Awesome. Professor Rutherford.
Right.
Don't let us hanging like Kano has done.
That's right.
He's been slacking.
That's right.
He's been slacking on the harsh comments. So
yeah. So thanks to thanks to Rhiniak for pitching that. And if anyone else has a cool segment idea or any questions that they want to add to the lightning round, again, just shoot us an email at marshamtoyhour gmail.com, or, just leave a comment in the IG post or a Facebook post or something. We would definitely love to hear from you and what you want to hear. And so, Carlos, where can people find you and Chamaco?
You can find me and my brother at thebeastbrothers.com or at thebeastbrothers on Instagram. And Chamaco, you can find him on at my name is Chamaco. He's taking a nap right now on top of me.
Nice. I'm sure you posted an Instagram picture of that too.
Nah.
No?
No, I do the podcast naked, dude. What are you talking about?
All right. And I am Gary Ham. You can find me at superham.com or Gary Ham on Instagram. Thanks again to Jim Crawford for joining us. This has been the Marsham Toy Hour. Until our next transmission, we're signing off. Bye. And I am going to attempt to rattle off all the toys produced by Strangeco. Doorbell by Jim Woodring, Mars 1 by Mars 1, Tiger Baby by Sam Flores, Bigfoot by Bigfoot 1, Bunny Van by Jeremy Fish, The Neo Kaiju Project, Invisible Plan miniseries by Mars 1, Turtle Camper by Jeremy Fish, Observer by Mars 1, Dero by Jermaine Rogers, Buddha Glamour Cat by Scott Musgrove, The Cactus Friends by Tokidoki, Squire by Jermaine Rogers, Kathy Cowgore by Ron English, Chiquito by Superdoo, The Moofy and Mozzarella by Tokidoki, the IWG miniseries by Rocket World, Circus Punk miniseries, Mini Treehouse vinyl miniseries by Nathan Jervicius, Bertino by Tokidoki, Veil Specimen 129 by Jermaine Rogers, Boleto by Tokidoki, Mainframe by Dean Bradley, Wish Come True blind box series by Friends With You, King Ken blind box series by James Jarvis. You had the Adios and Chow Chow by Tokidoki, Mr. Bumper by Jim Woodring, Bumble and Tweet by Julie West, The Vivisect Playset, Louie by Bob Dobb, Mr. TTT by Friends With You, Coca Commando by Tokidoki, Cap in Rotten Claw by Greg Simpkins, Tokidoki Tiger by Tokidoki, Somewhere City by Goran Lelas, Mr. Spray by Shepard Ferry, and Midnight Crooner by Nathan Oda.